Amidst growing religious fervor in 19th century America, William Miller, a farmer from upstate New York, began to read the Bible and develop his own interpretation of the book of Revelation. Not to dwell too much into detail, with the assistance of the latest technologies of mass communication, he gained a substantial following when he predicted the second coming of Christ. Of course, in 1843, Christ didn't return. So Miller went back to the drawing board, and through his own mathematics, he concluded he was off 1 year and switched the date to October 22nd, 1844. This date is remembered as the Great Disappointment. Christ again didn't return. Many of Miller's followers expressed dismay, disappointment, as well as wept that life carried on as normal and they were not carried into heaven. And just like many doomsday and end of the world prophecies, new ones emerged, gained tractions, nothing happened, and people carried on with their lives. This story illustrates an odd but repetitive pattern in the Manosphere, and that is red pillars predicting the supposedly inevitable doom of women's financial well-being and moving on after the prophecy never comes to fruition. This happened when Onlyfans announced it would ban sexually explicit content on October 1st. Content creators joyously called it the quote "dot apocalypse" and repeated Kevin Samuels' phrase,
"So, carry your cell phone, and when OnlyFans stops, Subway will be hiring."
Oh my God, mic drop. Wow. Wow.
But then OnlyFans reversed its decision, and to my knowledge, no one has recanted their past statements. But as silly as it sounds, we have been here before. Schadenfreude is omnipresent in the red pill. Red pillars are infamous for predicting and celebrating the impending doom of women. I've seen this happen firsthand with the coronavirus pandemic, evictions, a near month-long government shutdown, and the 2016 presidential election. The hope is that women's precarious financial state will force them to realize feminism's false promise and encourage them to rely on men by becoming submissive and traditional housewives. The animosity against OnlyFans in particular is rooted in two competing red pill beliefs: that men have to work hard to establish themselves, and that a woman's value is largely tied to her appearance.
This is a dub for the city boys, you feel me? This is a dub for the guys that's out here actually working hard, and you getting shown up by these chicks making at least 20 grand a month, dropping out of high school, you feel me? Hey, but guess what? We got jobs that's open, and they just increased minimum wage. They fighting to increase minimum wage, so y'all will do better than $8 an hour.
Thus, the increased profitability of OnlyFans models as the platform grew expeditiously during the pandemic from 7.5 to 85 million registered users, according to a spokesperson in December 2020, has frustrated red pillars who spite women profiting off of their looks and they quote-unquote simps for financing it. So, what exactly is Schadenfreude? It's a German term to describe having pleasure derived by someone from another person's misfortune. Of course, there are other words to describe the same behavior in other cultures going back 2,000 years. Almost everybody does it. If you're a sports fan, you likely have been gleeful when the opposing team failed to win the game. I know I do whenever a team defeats the Philadelphia 76ers in the playoffs. When it comes to our own happiness, human beings have always relied on the humiliation and failures of others. But what is so striking about red pillars is their desire to see women as a collective group miserable to the point that they constantly make dubious predictions. It's no secret that many red pillars weren't good with women in high school. They didn't have that spark.
Omelette de fromage! Omelette de fromage! What did you say? Omelette de fromage? Oh, Dexter, Dexter! French is the language of love. Oh, say it again, Dexter. Omelette de fromage.
They were more like this dude.
Oh my God. Oh, I meant as a friend. Oh, you actually thought I could like someone as fat and gross and disgusting like you?
Anyway, I cannot recall all of the dubious predictions, but here are several examples. During the 2016 presidential election, content creators promoted the dubious argument that President Donald Trump would eradicate feminism and implement austerity measures, effectively limiting welfare. Thus, women would come crawling back to men. Of course, we are currently months removed from the Trump presidency and the Manosphere is still complaining about feminism. During the 2018-19 government shutdown, the longest one on record, the Black Manosphere predicted that a full month of missed paychecks would force black women to become submissive. After all, the federal government is one of the largest employers for black people who make up nearly 20% of the workforce according to the Associated Press. Interestingly enough, I remember reading a comment from a follower who expressed disappointment in the Black Manosphere for celebrating the shutdown while he was currently out of a job. And again, the government shutdown didn't leave black women to rely on black men, and in 2021, the Black Manosphere is still complaining about submission. The coronavirus pandemic was a once-in-a-century event and has devastated national and local economies, people's mental health, sleep cycles, and of course racked up a high death toll. But when it began, content creators were overtly obsessed with whether the pandemic would make women traditional housewives. As always, the Black Manosphere wondered whether the crisis would make black women submissive. The group even promoted the idea that sex work would become cheaper, but the industry actually boomed.
On secondary tip, coochie gonna get mighty cheap.
And again, both predictions failed, neither group recanted previous statements, and the world kept turning. These persistent failed predictions only continue because of deliberate forgetfulness and the continuous rotation of subscribers. I'm still a bit perplexed as to why these men make these dubious prophecies. The most reasonable explanation is likely the internet echo chambers can manipulate a person's perception of reality. Most women don't have an Onlyfans account, and even if the platform collapsed, most users would just migrate to a different platform or another business would emerge to take its place. History never goes in reverse. Even when it appears so, it's never a facsimile of bygone eras. But the Manosphere will likely keep reminiscing about a halcyon past that never truly existed. New predictions will emerge, gain traction, nothing will happen, and people will carry on with their lives.